Today, we take a look at judicial reforms. We speak to a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association on issues of access to justice, timeliness of justice delivery, the quality of it, and public trust in the justice system. Next is a report on the NSARS panel in Adamawa and Lagos states. And later, Sokoto State joins other states that have passed the Child Rights Act into law. We have highlights of that. Talking about judicial reforms in the courtrooms, a place where legal disputes are resolved, legal disputes are heard. What has changed in the past and what obtains now, especially in line with the current realities? And one includes the coronavirus pandemic. Well, I spoke to some lawyers here at the Federal High Court, Ikoyi, Lagos.
In respect of filing, assignments, the bureaucracy there is quite efficient. Where I have a problem regarding the Federal High Court here is the condition of the courtrooms. The courtrooms are very compact. They're very, very small in size. So you have lawyers packed in there. Some other lawyers who are not able to get into and stay outside. So sometimes if you are not careful enough, you might be outside and your case is called in and adjourned or struck out, as the case may be. So the size of the courtrooms is what I think is not conducive at all.
The only people that have a luxury of space are the SL. So for others, if you don't come to court early, you will not see a place to sit. If you come early, you will be packed like sardine, sitting down. Then most lawyers, some of them that their cases have not been called, will be outside the courtroom waiting for their turns for their cases to be called. Then you find out that this COVID has not even make it easier. You know, some lawyers, some judges will tell lawyers to go outside. Lawyers will be standing outside. Then they will say, if your matter is between one or so, then you come inside. Then there is no provision for where lawyers will sit, pending when your cases will be called. So it's not convenient.
Judicial reform plays a central role in the efforts of countries around the world to strengthen the rule of law. The former NBA president, Mr. Paul Usoro, speaks about the current reforms and solutions.
Well, when you're speaking about reforms, it's multifaceted. You can examine it from different angles. So it really depends on which angle you're examining it from. You can speak in terms of the outputs of the judges. And if you're talking about the outputs of judges, once upon a time we didn't have that measurement of saying you would determine the outputs based on the number of judgments that judges deliver. But now you have that standard, and that in some ways is a reform. You could also look at a reform in terms of talking about the independence of the judiciary, for example. That's something that several people talk about, sometimes without really understanding what we are talking about. We're talking about independence. We could talk about independence from two perspectives. One is independence of thought. In other words, that the judge should be free to make its determination without being influenced by a third party. And then, of course, there is also the independence in regard to the process for even the appointment of the judges and the maintenance of the judiciary. Are these tied somewhere? Is there if I might borrow it from somewhere, a quid pro quo of some sorts? Those are issues that you look at when you're talking about reform.
What's your take on our current reform strategies?
There are things that could be changed. I believe that we could utilize technology much better. That would greatly help as far as justice administration is concerned.
What's your opinion? Is Nigeria's integrity, capacity in talking about the judiciary in doubt?
Well, I'll put it this way. Like any institution and any Nigerian institution, you may have some bad eggs, but that doesn't necessarily qualify the entire eggs. It doesn't necessarily make everybody to be bad. There might be some that are not doing their jobs, their assignments right. There might be some that are bent. That's not impossible. And that is why there is also a process for having to get them. If anybody has any hard facts in regard to any bent judge, the thing to do is to report it to the NJC.
How would you say Nigerians perceive the justice system in the country?
Perception is not always the fact. Sometimes perception can be wrong. And yes, something needs to be done to correct that perception. But let me also, and to buttress the points, I'll give you an interesting story. You know, I was the president of the Nigerian Association. I conducted an election for at the close of my tenure to bring in the new set of people, and of course there was generally that hoopla that which more or less trails the Bar Association election. Different people believing that this was fixed, that there are certain things that were done. But one of the things I can tell you is I was determined to conduct an election that was clean, fair, and I did not interfere with the process. And I felt sufficiently confident about it. When there was that outcry by some people about it, I actually approached the top 4 accounting firms and requested each of them. No, there was one that was excluded for some reason. But the other ones, I went to them and I requested that they should come in and conduct audits of the election. I was happy to subject my process to the audits, for an audit. And you know what? Because of the noise, because of the way we lawyers branded ourselves and how much we talked down ourselves, each of those accounting firms told me they were not coming, that they don't want anything to do with lawyers, that we talk too much, and before you know what's happening, they're going to end up in the EFCC, and they would not want to touch anything about us. So sometimes this perception also comes from the way some of us actually talk down our profession, the way we talk down the courts, the way we talk down everything relating to justice administration. Yes, there are things that could be done that would improve the process, but it's not the worst institution that you have as far as Nigeria is concerned.
The police are partners in the justice system. How are they doing?
Maybe that's actually where you should be talking about reform, because having to institute a reform in the police is perhaps something that we need. You could talk about the reform from the perspective of justice administration. But justice administration is only perhaps one aspect of policing. There's the other large aspect of it. Of course, justice administration is a core part, a very major part. But you know, policing, you're talking about security, safety of lives and property. And the fact that we are where we are right now in Nigeria suggests that we really need to look at what would make our police system to work, that would make it possible for people to travel from Abuja to Kaduna, for example, by road, and they're not afraid that they might get kidnapped and they might lose their lives. I remember when I did my youth course so many years ago, and I could drive at night from Kaduna to Minna, going through Kontagora at night, and I would be safe, I would be secure. I could drive from Kaduna to Maiduguri and I would not have any challenges or issues. I could drive from Lagos to Akwa Ibom and I would not have problems. But these days, you hardly find people having to take road transport, for example. And even if you're not traveling, at your home, you may not feel particularly very safe. So the issue of the police goes beyond the partnership with lawyers, with partnership with justice administration. But of course, you see, if there's a knot loose somewhere in that system, then it becomes very difficult for you to have everything together in other aspects. In other words, you can't have it right as far as partnering in justice administration is concerned, and then you have it wrong as far as safety, security, policing is correct, because one fits the other in any case. So yes, we do need to have a look at that in a holistic sense and see what needs to be done.
The correctional system, there seems to be a lot going on. The recent jailbreaks, and of course we know how the number of inmates are there still awaiting trial. What is lacking in solving that problem?
Again, it gets to it's the different parts of what we have just spoken about now, with what we've discussed. Why are you having so many jailbreaks lately? You find that it's the instability in the system. You find that it's the root cause is more the insecurity. Maybe you find there's some distemper in the society, and that gives rise to some of these incidents. Sometimes when you're hearing of a jailbreak, it is because there have been something of a riot or some discontent in the community, and then the people decide, as part of their attempts at showing discontent, to break the jail and let out the inmates and the prisoners. That's still a factor of the security, the general insecurity that we have. It speaks to the unfortunate states of instability that we have in Nigeria, which we truly need to do something about. Now, that is one aspect of it. Now, you're talking about that there are a number of inmates awaiting trial. Again, we have talked about the challenges or the problems that delay justice administration. That, again, is the byproduct of some of those delays, some of those challenges that you have in the courts, where you're not able to go through the process fairly fast. Sometimes also because there are adjournments, the lawyers are not, or the prosecutors. It also happens, a lot of the instances, that the prosecutors are not doing their job well. They're not ready, actually, and that happens. But there have also been instances when the inmates are taken to the courts, and maybe the courts is actually busy with some of these political matters that they must complete within a specific time. And unfortunately, it used to be that criminal matters had precedence over every other thing. But now you find that the political matters tend to have precedence over every other matter, including even the criminal matters. So you find some of the inmates, they're brought and they're taken back, they're brought and they're taken back, because the courts, they're dealing with some of the matters of, as you would say, matters of urgent state attention, and that more or less takes the time. So there are all of those kinds of issues. It's not as if we do not know the causes of these things. I think what is lacking is the will to address them. And people actually sitting down and deciding that we're going to correct some of these things. It's that will. If we have the will, then we can sort them out.
As the most populous country in the region, Nigeria has the highest number of child brides. An estimated 22 million live in the country, which accounts for 40% of all child brides in the region. Niger, which has the highest prevalence in the world, has 4.1 million child brides. Well, this next report shows how one state, 18 years after the federal government enacted the Child Rights Act 2003, has taken a major step forward for child's rights in Nigeria.
According to a UNICEF report, Nigeria has the highest number of child marriages in Africa, with 22 million girls and women married in childhood. A similar report by Save the Children shows that the prevalence of child marriage is highest in the northwest zone, with 76%, and lowest in the southeast, with 10%. Nigeria's federal government has since enacted various laws to ensure children's rights are protected, their well-being and access to education, with the 1994 Universal Basic Education Program and the 2003 Child Rights Act, among others. Now, one more state has dotted the I's and crossed the T's, signing into law the Child Protection Bill earlier passed by the State House of Assembly. The United Nations Resident Coordinator and Humanitarian Coordinator in Nigeria, while congratulating the government, spoke of the difficulties experienced prior to the signing.
You are all aware that there were several attempts to get it passed with no success in the past. And some of the key challenges were issues of perception. That is, traditional and religious leaders perceive the act as conveying Western ideas of upbringing a child, promoting the notion of Western rights, and therefore they were not easily convinced that this is something they wanted.
The Sokoto State Governor Aminu Tambuwal, who has assented to it, commends the effort of the State Assembly, the role of the Sultan of Sokoto and the Sultanate Council, CSOs and other stakeholders whose contribution culminated into the signing of the law.
The expectation has been that since the passage of the Child Rights Act 2003, under the government of President Olusegun Obasanjo, all states of the Federation should domesticate or adopt the Child Rights Act. But it's been very difficult in so many states, including Sokoto State, because of certain concerns, as highlighted by my brother Edward Kalon in his remarks, as to how concerned very many people have been as to the intentions behind the Child Rights Act.
So far, 28 states, including Sokoto, have domesticated the act into law. According to Peter Hawkins, UNICEF representative in Nigeria, this is a major step forward for children's rights across the state and sets an example for the states remaining that have not yet domesticated their Child Rights Act 2003 to do so as quickly as possible.
Next is a report about the NSARS panel as Adamawa State Governor receives it and the controversies surrounding the Lagos report.
The Adamawa State Government has received the Judicial Panel of Inquiry report over investigations of complaints on police brutality and extrajudicial killings in the state. Set up in October 2020 and later extended, the Governor Umaru Fintiru received the members of the panel at the chambers of the Government House in Yola. Is optimistic that the report will address extrajudicial killings, police brutality, but however appeals for respect, encouragement and harmonious working relationship between the police and the public.
We should, as people and as government, continue to protect our citizens. It is our responsibility constitutionally, and it is a moral burden on all of us to ensure that we protect lives and property. And I think with this report, it will address most of the issues of abuse, brutality and killing, especially extrajudicial killing in our state. It's not because it has happened with the NSARS, but I think it's something that we must work against it and ensure that we discourage it and stop it, because we have lost life enough in Adamawa. We have lost life through criminalities. We have lost life through the activities of the insurgents, farmer herders, even Sheila boys within the state capital. and other metropolitan towns within the state. I think it's something that we must work as people very seriously to ensure that we discourage and we stop it.
In his remarks, the chairman of the 13 members of the Judicial Panel of Inquiry, retired Justice Adamawa, thanks Governor Fintiri for giving them the privilege to serve the state.
The Commission received a total of 13 memoranda from the affected individuals together with their documentary exhibits. Some of the losses suffered range from mental trauma, physical body pains, loss of properties, and losses of human lives, some of which are not quantifiable in monetary terms.
Meanwhile, in Lagos, while the world awaits the result of the review committee into the panel's report submitted to the governor of Lagos State,
we're seeing this for the first time.
We no die. We no die. NSARS movement.
members of the NSARS movement at the joint NSARS World Press Conference are pessimistic about the result of the white paper, as they say it stands against natural justice.
How can the Attorney General of Lagos State and Commissioner of Justice, Moyesoro Onigbanjo Esquire, SAN, who was confirmed by the testimony by the representative of the Lagos State Government, Muri Okunla, the head of service, to have attended the Lagos State Security Council of 19 October 2021, where the most senior military officers in Lagos State was set in motion by the resolution of the council to contain law and order. How can that kind of person turn around to be a member or to be a chair of the White Paper Committee? Moyesoro Onigbanjo, the Attorney General of Lagos State, was very much involved in that panel. In fact, he attends, and of course, it was through his office that private lawyers, their firms were appointed to represent Lagos State before the panel through this particular office.
They also allege threats, both verbal and non-verbal, on their members after the brutal attack on a star witness of the Lekki toll gate incident, Kamsi Yochukwu Ibe, on Sunday, November the 19th, 2021, by 3 unknown assailants.
Ms. Kamsi and others who are bold and courageous enough to come out to serve as witnesses at the NSARS panel have also escaped several attacks even before now. So it's important to give this background so that people don't just think that it is one other violent attack on a young person.
Apart from calling for a full implementation of the Lagos State NSARS Judicial Panel report, they also want the Lekki Toll Plaza be made a memorial site, renamed NSARS Tollgate. A standing human rights committee or tribunal set up to receive and make determinations in respect of complaints made against the Nigerian police and other security agencies, among other demands.
We are taking 3 questions on this presentation. Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Information and Culture, Mr. Lai Mohammed, has referred to the NSARS Lagos report as riddled with many errors and inconsistencies. He says the conclusions are not supported by evidence.
There's absolutely nothing in the report that is circulating to make us change our stand that there was no massacre at Lekki on October 20, 2020. I repeat, there is absolutely nothing in the report that is circulating to make us change our stand that there was no massacre at the Lekki toll gate on October 20th, 2020. The report in circulation does not meet those requirements. We also appeal to the families of those allegedly killed in Lekki, at the Lekki toll gate, to speak out and come forward. It's untenable to say that some families did not come out because they are afraid. With the same families that are afraid and did not come out, will they collect? Will it be morally right for them to come and collect compensation on behalf of their wards who could not even come out to testify for?
And that's our program today. Don't forget that you can catch this episode of the program and past episodes on our YouTube channel. I'm Millicent Walker. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.